November is coming up, and that means election time.
Oh, yeah, the big famous times.
Big famous election time. Our guest today is running for California Assembly District 8.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay, want to make sure I got that right. He's a voice for the Valley and the foothills. But the coolest part is your story in life. And we are here today to talk with David Tangipa. I know I got that wrong.
Yeah,
Oh, did I? All right, yeah. Welcome, David. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. We're super excited to have you here because you, as we've mentioned and we've talked earlier, is that you are a shining example when I met you of what Tracy and I focus on in terms of resorting to success and what we feel is not necessarily anything other than just super hard effort and having the foresight of leaning into it every day. So thank you for coming in.
Well, of course. Well, and I thank you for giving me this opportunity. There's just so many stories, whether it's mine or yours, that I think it's special. You know, it's a special place, like here in not only California, but in the Valley. And even though it is pretty much election season, people are going to have their ballots in less than 30 days.
Yeah,
You to think
exactly.
you're
Yeah.
hands on.
So things are working, but I just think about all the good people here, and I just want to work for them because they did a lot of work to help me get to where I am. It's not a story of me being by myself or anything like that. There's a lot of special people, and so.
Well, me being a fan of the Bulldogs and you being the Valley guy, the Green Bee leader, right? That's the big thing of what that's about, right? And we appreciate that effort. That's a big part of it.
I appreciate that.
And I think, like, one of the things that when I first met you, I was like, wow, you're so young. And you've jumped right into this and so likable. And your story of resilience is crazy.
Well, I appreciate
So-
it. The one thing that I always say is, like, you know, it's not actually, especially getting into politics, being 28 is not the anomaly for the history of the world. That's actually,
Right.
I'm on the older end of the spectrum. If you think about it, we just, in this current environment,
Yes.
the politicians that got elected in the 1960s and 70s just never left.
They're not leaving.
They actually
They're
have
just
just
falling off
never
the planes
left.
now. Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of them got elected when they were 28. I mean, if we think about the current president today, he was first elected into this
Crazy.
the Delaware Senate at 28 years old. I mean, the different individuals, whether they're Speaker of the House or different ones, were elected into their early 30s.
Right.
You know, and late. And so it's not the anomaly. We've just become so accustomed to it being one way, but that's only been a phenomenon since the 1960s on, that these individuals never left.
Wow.
Okay, well, we're glad to see some young blood coming in.
exactly.
And you are amazing. Before we get into your story, we want to do something kind of fun.
Okay.
So,
My wife can dream up some of the funnest things. It always involves a game. So this is the part where we enter this.
we do love games. So anyways, we're going to do just a quick word association game, okay, to see where your
Word
brain
association.
is.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay? So
Little
when I say a word, you're going to come up with the first word that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Okay, you ready? Triumph,
Win.
journey,
Long.
failure,
Good.
obstacle,
Opportunity.
Like it.
luck,
Well, that one I usually say opportunity as well.
grit,
Work.
resilience,
Needed.
happiness,
A mentality.
family,
Everything.
strength.
Built. Awesome.
I love these answers
Great
so
answers.
much.
Yeah, there you go. See, and the pivot right there is a great. For me is when I met you, your first time, you talked about family, and that right there was really the beginning of what your storyline really put you in the limelight. Tell us a little bit about your family history. What happened that brought you to this point?
Yeah, well, see, it's actually, and I'm already getting teary-eyed from it, just because this past week, and hopefully I'll be able to handle this by after it's done, I actually got in the mail on Friday my mother's full legal residency and paperwork.
Oh my gosh.
And so there's some special things that, and I'm hoping that this comes out probably after her birthday.
We'll
Because that's a document that she's been waiting on for over 30 years, just to be able to, because this is now something that she can travel out of the country. She's never been back home for over 30 years. And
Where is home?
my mother's from the island of Tonga. And so she grew up, born and raised there. Tonga's the small island in the South Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
It's Polynesian, so Hawaiians, Tongans, Samoans, Maori people. We're all Polynesian.
Yeah.
We all speak different languages and different things. But my mother is like part of the main family that comes from that island, and it's the last remaining Pacific monarchy, in the world.
Interesting.
And so, she came out this way to just fight for a better life, because in Tonga it's pretty rural.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
people like different people this country has only been around, recognized since about the 1820s. It's been here for thousands and thousands of years, but before that there wasn't even a written language until Captain Cook and those individuals really came to visit the island. Wow. So, and that's in the 1800s.
Interesting.
So it's been a fairly big shift, and she comes from that island. She came out this area, and getting that document to where,
Oh my gosh.
I just think
that'd be
about
big.
it. My mom has just fought so much to be here. Just a little bit about that part. My dad was, he was in the Navy. He was one of those Navy guys, and they always joke about those stories on how those
Pretty island girl.
those Navy guys like those island girls, and they've got kind of a secret family out there and all that. I'm the product of a secret family. My dad had a different family before and met my mom and had another family.
Wow. Goodness.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty interesting.
So did you grow up with him in your family?
So after the first couple years, yes, my dad then came, because my mom used to take care of my father's mother. And so she did in-home care, which is something like a lot of islanders do, because family is part of our biggest thing. We always take care of each other.
Right.
And so my mom did that. And she has an amazing story too. My mother used to basically be like the royal babysitter for the Princess of Tonga. Wow. And so
How great is that?
Yep. It was because we are part of the noble family from the island of Niue, which is a little bit far from the main island of Tonga. Mm-hmm. But there's noble families that are just the main families. My mother is one of 16. Wow. And
holy cow.
Kind of in that island, it's very, sparse too. Like you can, if you don't show that you have education, like prowess pretty early on, then you just become a worker. For them. So you kind of drop off fairly quickly, but a lot of the noble families work for the main royal family. And so my mother was picked up by one of her best friends and cousin, Princess Bilalevu, to go with her to England at first. And my mother used to take care of the Prince and Princess of Tonga. So and then she just kind of continued working, and, again, like I said, met my dad and all of that, and had us. And then, maybe my dad didn't really factor in that, when you have kids, they get older. So
does happen.
It wasn't going to be a secret for too long. But when my grandmother passed away, I had like a sister that was part of the other family that was familiar with us, because he would bring her, because she was young as well, to hang out with us. And so,
And where did you live at this time?
We were in North Highlands. So we lived in North Highlands just on the outskirts of Sacramento.
Okay.
So really close to McClellan Air Force Base, because they use the VA services for her medical in those different areas. But the first couple of years, my dad was close, but not generally with us until kind of everything kind of exposed and went out. And then my dad came to stay with us now. Wow. But I am extremely close to that other family. I consider them my family as well.
Is that? I mean, amazing to think that you could accept that and it work and as a family group. That's amazing.
It's most people look at it as like, this is confusing. but for me, it just, again,
it just worked for you guys.
Even when it comes to like obstacles and different things and going through hardships, again, happiness is a mentality. You could choose to wallow in everything that happens, or you can get over it and keep on pushing.
Great point. That's one thing that we talk about. It's you look at it. Everything's a choice, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the big part that people, if they could learn one thing, is just to grab on that better half of it, whatever that looks at the moment, real pulls you through. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so how did you end up in Fresno?
Well, growing up in North Highlands, I mean, it's a pretty beat up area. And so when they shut down the military base back in the late 90s, the military budget, they reduced it by $200 billion. So if you're familiar with like Castle Air Force Base,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
destroyed Atwater,
Yep.
McClellan Air Force Base was part of that same order. So McClellan, Mather, Atwater, or Castle, Alameda, and all these different bases shut down. So it's all these locations were really just ended up kind of falling to the wayside. And I grew up in a community. I grew up right across the street from that. So the same thing that happened to Atwater happened to North Highlands. And so there's a lot of people that are at least familiar when it comes to like Sacramento and North Highlands area. That there's only a few ways you kind of get out. Most people are you're either rapping, you're selling drugs, or you're playing sports. And I just
You didn't try the rapping career, did you?
I'm not a rapper.
Dang it.
not good at drug dealing or any of that. And for me,
We're glad about that.
but I just I just saw athletics and education as like, because I didn't want to live like we grew up in low income housing, and the general area was beat up, and the house that I grew up in was, there was a lot of us in a little 2-bedroom, tiny 800 square foot house. That
How many siblings do you have?
So there's 4 siblings, so 5 of us together with my 2 parents, and then, but I have a lot of family too in these different groups that just had been around, and I just wanted more.
Right.
Like ever since I was younger, I've always just never wanted to limit myself, to where we're at. My dad has a lot of mental issues too, from the military and different things, and so, and some of his own childhood trauma growing up. He grew up in a military family as well and was bouncing around all over the place.
Hard life.
Tough, hard life,
Different things. And so he had all these different issues. But I just always wanted more, and I just saw that through athletics. I've been this size, 6'4", since the 8th grade.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I stopped growing. Yep. I thought I would be 6'7". I was hoping to at least be a little bit taller.
You could
But
be an NBA center at that point.
since the 8th grade, I've been kind of this height.
You are a full foot taller than me.
So, real quickly, high school, went to North Highlands High School?
Yep. Went to Foothill High School.
Foothill High School.
Yep.
And which is actually known for their football program. I believe.
So you're probably thinking of the Foothill out of Stockton. Because the Foothill out of Stockton
might be it. Okay.
is like an elite school.
Okay, maybe that's what.
Yeah, my
okay,
school,
well, I
we
thought I
went,
knew I was
we
talking
went
about,
1-9 my 2 varsity years, and I was the only one to get out. So
Yeah, but 6'4" is a standout. That's amazing, and still a walk-on at Fresno State.
had the chance.
How many great stories this school's got about walk-ons?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so you included as another faction of that, which is amazing.
Yeah. So
yeah.
how did that work?
So I just, I think my high school coach, Coach Trokey, because Coach Norcross came to visit. Just you got to go check out all the schools and all this. He dragged Coach Norcross over to just come and meet me because I had opportunities to play San Jose State. I originally had a scholarship there, and then they dropped me because I played in the All-Metro game and partially tore my hamstring and different things like that. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I had verbally committed, and this was before the early signing period, to San Jose State. That's where I wanted to go. Right. I was actually recruited, and at the game where Fresno State lost to San Jose State.
Oh my.
In 2013, the bid that would have let them go to the Fiesta Bowl.
Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah.
And that was a game that was 66 to 61.
Oh my goodness.
Where
yeah.
I was actually at that game.
Yep, and
Yep.
in San Jose. So I
In
was
San
there
Jose.
too.
Yep.
San Jose State needed it to go 6-6 so that they could be bowl eligible. Still didn't get a bowl bid.
Yep.
And then Fresno State would have been the highest ranked non-Power 5 school.
Non-Power 5.
And
Yeah.
the school would be in a better position today if we would have got that. But I just had committed there, and then they dropped me from their scholarship. I still had an opportunity to go to Sac State, UC Davis, Humboldt, Menlo College in the Bay, just a couple smaller schools. But I really just wanted to play at that higher division.
Right.
So just Fresno State, Coach Norcross offered me a walk-on spot by coming by, and to me, I looked at Fresno, and it was more affordable than the Bay Area.
Right.
For sure.
And made more sense. My dad being 100% disabled in the military, I also got a California fee waiver as well as his dependent. And then I also got VA benefits as well, Chapter 35 benefits that I got to use at Fresno State, which helped, just offset, could cover rent
Right.
at least. And so it all made sense because Fresno was cheaper.
Yeah.
Right.
Really good football. I mean, they were ranked the year before. They just won the Mountain West Championship. All these different things. So I decided to come here, but I quickly realized I was not an NFL guy. The NFL guys, I mean, when you see them, they jump off.
Yeah.
You see the NFL guy. They're 17 years old and benching 500 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'm specifically describing one of my friends that was 17, and I mean the guy is a monster, and now he plays for the Detroit Lions. So
yeah.
you could see okay, NFL guy, education guy.
I don't know about that.
So I wanted to be the education
Yeah.
guy on a football team.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so your education was really your priority, and football was something that you could do
Product.
to have fun, or
Well, for me, it was more if they're taking my knees, I'm taking their degrees. So
right.
because the degrees last forever.
Yep.
You know, the NFL stands for not for long, where I just never wanted to be in that position where I'd seen other people and players that, you know, they get out of school and they don't know what to do. Like they have no idea because their life has been so dedicated to just football or just making it to the NFL. And there's some guys out there that, you know, in my mind, I just, you know, if I ran a 4.3 or if I benched, you know, 500 pounds or different things, I'd still have that locked in mindset on that part. But I mean, I just knew, like, I wasn't the fastest guy on the team. I wasn't the strongest guy, but I could work the hardest, whether it was on academics or just in the locker room and just do different things and just be a bricklayer. And Coach Tedford talks about being a bricklayer. Is very important to the team. You might not be the engineer, which could be the quarterback. You might not be, you know, the architect. You know, but you could be the bricklayer. And that is just as important. And so when he talked about that, you know, I wanted to be the best damn bricklayer I could be and focus on education.
That's amazing.
You know, we interviewed Frank Delana, and he was talking about how he knew right away he wasn't going to be NFL either. But what he brought to the team was, you know, he was always the positive guy, and he was always the guy that brought, you know, motivation. And so when you do talk about a team, everybody has their place, right?
For sure.
Exactly.
Not just the star players.
Because you know and there's different players in different roles. Sometimes you're just the rah-rah guy who gets everybody out of the rut.
Yeah.
You know, and
Value.
And that's the thing. Frank would show up to practice. We'd be all groggy and mad, and I'd be up whether it was last night studying because I had all these different things that I was working on, and I don't want to practice or anything. And then Frank just walks into the room, and you know, like he's commanding the place and the highest energy, and you just got to go.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to pick it up.
believe.
And
Right.
you just
Bought in.
All right. Well, Frank's energy's at 100%. It's at 1,000%.
Right.
I haven't even had coffee yet, but it's you know, you just need that, you know, that type of mentality. You know, and it goes back to that mentality. Like happiness is a mentality and these different things because Frank walks in and is like, all right, well, lights up the room. Let's go.
Let's roll.
Let's roll.
So back to mom. You segued with mom coming through the ways of life through all this, and then she came to your family. She means a lot to you. I've seen that every time you speak. What is the steps that's happened the last number of years that really got you even further in it? Because I've heard some pretty cool tidbits of things that you've established for them, and that's the blessing. Please share.
Yeah, well, so it just, you know, when I was younger, I never really appreciated a lot that like my mom would do. And it was like all these different things. And I just think back, you know, life may have been hard, like growing up, but I never knew. Like it's
Parents do a good job of hiding.
Well, it's the funny thing. It's like I always tell people I never knew I was poor until somebody else reminded me that I was poor. And that we grew up. I mean,
it is what it is.
It's just so surprising to me to like think about it. Like, you know, I slept on the living room floor for a majority of my life. I never had a bedroom truly until I got to college. You know, we had to lay plywood down on our bathroom floor because it had caved in, and we didn't, like, all these different things. Like, we were putting tarps on the roof because it would rain, and you know, there's nothing else you can do, in my opinion.
You thought that was normal. That's how people live.
That's just how we grew up the entire time, you know, and all these different things.
You just deal with it.
Yep. You just kind of deal with like all this other stuff. And my dad, like I said, had these mental issues. He was kind of a hoarder, just always gathered things. They didn't do anything, but he just gathered things. And the moment I
got
would
people in
fix
their life
these
like
things
that.
or something else, he'd sell it and he'd keep all the money too. So I got tired of doing all the things. But, you know, I just think back to like with my mother's story. You know, my mother had to deal with a lot. You know, and no matter what she had to deal with, she worked her ass off to like keep us part of the community. And she would take us to church. We would walk to church all the time, or we'd hop on the bus. She would get families to like sponsor us for like Christmas, and she'd walk us to like the pool and all these different things. And then when I started playing football, she didn't know what she was talking about, but she'd lay out like shoes on the grass and chairs, and she was like, jump over the chair and run around the cones that were
gosh.
just shoes and all these
Coach,
different
too.
things. Oh, well, tried.
A mom coach.
And remember, my mom is
A lot of coaching that comes from moms.
my mom is Polynesian, so she's bigger and stronger than me. And, you know, so it was both coach and scary at the same time. The perfect combination of a coach. But she just did all of these different things that, you know, we'd wait in the food lines for church. And even my mom would always talk to me in like Tongan too. And she would say, you know, you may be the poorest Americans, but you're the richest Tongans because you're in America. And no matter what, you're worried about the holes in your shoes. Your cousins don't have shoes. You're worried about, you know, the family that sponsored us, that gave us these Game Boys and different things. She was like, we can't afford batteries this time. But your cousins don't even have electricity. Right. You know, and she would always talk about that.
Level it off for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All the time. I mean, all the time. My mom would make sure, and I just think back, like, all of that she was able to do and just provide for us here. And it's why it's so important to me. When my grandmother passed away, that was my mother's best friend, and it devastated her. And she's never been able to go back home. And funerals are really big deals for Tongan people. Okay. It's just the best, you know, you honor somebody.
Celebration.
Yeah. Celebration.
And my grandmother was very high, like looked at it as, she's a very high noble. Like her family is very respected on that end. And my mother has never been able to go back to her mother's grave. And so that's why it meant so much to me.
I see a big trip in the horizon.
To do this, because I'm my mother's American dream. And she stayed to fight for us when she was going through a lot of issues with my father and different things like that. But no matter what, she couldn't leave to go see her mom because she was feared that she couldn't come back to see us, to take care of us. She sacrificed so much that this is the least that I could do when it comes to the things that I need to do for all of them. And earlier this year, my dad passed away. And so...
Sorry to hear that.
I'm sorry to hear. I didn't realize that.
You know, and I'm in the position today to take care of my family because she sacrificed so much.
Right.
And so if I just need to work my ass off to make sure that she's okay and that she now is a legal resident of the United States and she can leave to go back. Her birthday's coming up. I've got a special gift, hopefully, that's coming up for her. Just waiting on some things there because she's been beaten up for a long time. And it's my turn to go back and work for her.
What a shining example you are of exactly who your mom is. I mean, the story you told about what you've established to help establish with your family for their homes, right? Remember?
So yeah, and that was one of the things, like when I got to Fresno State, and I knew I wasn't the NFL guy, education. But while I was finishing, my degree is political science, criminology. I got my legal studies certificate. I wanted to be a lawyer, but I graduated early, started my master's in business because, you know, if they're paying for it, might as well.
Let's go.
Keep getting as many as I can. But while I was in business, I started working in real estate. And through real estate, I had realized that the easiest way to break generational poverty was through home ownership. And that's where I just looked at my family and I was like, okay, I see what Sacramento is doing with some of the projects that they're working on, the revitalization of downtown, what Kevin Johnson was doing. He was the mayor at the time, all these different things. But the average home price, because North Highlands was such a beat up community, was like $190,000 in 2016.
Oh, wow.
You know, so it's still at the lower end of the market.
Yeah, for sure.
So I just put all my friends and family, and I said to them, I was like, you'll never. It was basically a program that said, like, if you have 10 pairs of Jordans and you have gold necklaces and diamond earrings and all this different stuff, but you rent where you sleep, you're not a baller.
Right.
I mean, you're not a baller.
Like it.
But you could afford to buy a home if you didn't buy 10 pairs of Jordans or these diamond earrings, or, you know, before you get the super nice car, like own your domain.
I don't know, maybe Starbucks every day.
Exactly.
I mean, there's so many things. We talk about this all the time that
People level up for the wrong way.
if
for a lot
you
of that.
want to have generational wealth, like real estate truly is where it's at.
Well, and that was
And there has to be sacrifices, right?
exactly. Yeah, and that's the same thing with my sister. And you know, getting into that real estate portion of it, it was just teaching all of them to break the mentality of what we grew up in, where there's just this huge mentality growing up in a community like that. You just never feel like you're going to get out. So you never feel like you need to take risk, or you never feel like you don't step out of your lane, or you try to do something different. And I mean, there was I think back to where there was a conversation I had with my sister and her now husband were not married. And she didn't want to marry him because she would lose benefits because he made just a little bit too much.
Just barely over the line.
Just barely over the line. And he was working for Pepsi at the time. And she was like, we can't. And I told her, I was like, her name's Brittany. And I go, you need to marry him, and you have to wear it like a badge of honor that you are no longer on these benefits anymore because you guys are making it to the next one. And she's like, well, it just feels like I'm getting punished because I'm not going to have, you know, the insurance for their Medicare and like different things like this. And I said, no, you have to, because some of the greatest markers that can show just being, I mean, it's a statistic by the Brookings Institute that literally says the 3 things that you need to do to just be successful in America is get married, don't have kids out of wedlock, and get a job.
Get married.
A career.
A career.
Get married, get a job, don't have a child out of wedlock. Those were the 3 things that they found that were the most successful individuals to be successful in the United States. I mean, if you think about it, 2 people making $45,000 as managers at McDonald's is a $90,000 income. You're above the poverty line by a lot.
Poverty line, okay. Yeah, exactly.
By a lot.
Yeah.
And so it was like those 3 things. It's pretty simple.
Right.
And so I told her to get married. They got married a couple of years ago. They now make a joint income of over $200,000. They own a home in Loomis after moving out of the same area. This home is probably worth $800-something thousand and different things. Their kids now go to one of the nicest schools in Northern California, Del Oro, in that Del Oro area in Loomis. And that was all from breaking that mentality of
Feeling stuck.
Or being complacent in that. It was the same thing that I had to do with my parents. They needed to buy now or else they'd never be able to.
Sure.
And not only that, the house that we grew up in was red tagged. It was collapsing in on itself.
My goodness. And you rented that.
Yes.
Which is crazy that's the landlord didn't fix those things.
Oh yeah. Well, but that's kind of what happens.
Slumlord.
They call
When it's
slumlords, yeah.
$600 maybe a month, and you know my dad really struggled on like, oh, I'm not going to pay for more or anything like that, and that $600 meant more than a better living area, and I had to break that mentality from him that my 2 younger brothers were going to live in a better area than I grew up in, or in a better house as well, and so. But then I helped over 60 of my other friends and family. I've done over $20 million in sales, and just helping individuals just break that mentality, just get the heck out of it on owning your home, because I was so worried that my own friends and family would never be able to buy again because I saw what was happening. I mean, the price of the average home in California now is $900,000.
Unbelievable.
Crazy.
How many individuals at 30-ish years old, I'm 28, could afford a $900,000 home?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's impossible. So I was able to get them into this, especially when interest rates drop super low, and just get them into a home.
Yeah. We talk about this all the time with our kids too. I mean, if
We institute that conversation a lot
they
about.
can buy a house at a very young age, you'll always have an opportunity to that's how often do you ever lose in real estate? It can happen. It can happen. But if
it can
you
happen.
get into a house and just grow with it, then you have an asset.
We'll
you
find the
know?
pain young when it's the
Yeah.
money's a stressor, but the money at least keeps the roof over your house and you actually own the ground.
And when you're young, I mean, when you're young, you don't know what it's like to have money. I mean, I remember living with roommates and making such a small amount of money and going, how did we even live like that? And we had fun, And so somehow you're just accustomed to it when you're younger. So just get the pain over with when you're young, buy that house.
Yeah, make that step.
Know you're going to be scrimping and scraping, and then you have an asset.
So, once again, a great example. I'm somebody here listening to you and thinking, your path right at the moment with politics starting in your near future for a role, long time role, short time role? Because I feel like there's a lot of other things you could be teaching and not at the school level. I'm like at rooms full of people, mentoring.
Well, for me, like my passion for policy comes from, well, look, I even have tongue and blood in me, and they're part of the noble family, so it's a government structure. So I've actually got government in my blood.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom tried to marry me off to the Princess of Tonga, which is also my cousin, so I said no.
Okay.
But that is within that mentality. And
I draw the line.
she might not be happy when
But you could own an island, though. Wait a minute.
well, we're from an island of 1,500 people, and they've been there for a couple thousand years. So
1,500.
1,500 people are currently on that.
Related.
So everybody's related on that island. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, wow.
But we went to like a Tongan ball back in like 2021 or 2020. No, back in 2018, and I danced with the princess because I like to dance.
Sure.
It's one of the fun things and one hobby I like to do is dancing.
Nice.
Awesome.
And so, we danced, and the King of Tonga was watching, and she only wanted to marry somebody that had high education. So I have my master's, and they're like, "Hey," and I'm like, "No." I didn't grow up in Tonga. I grew up here, so
Right.
I'm fairly
Rules are
American.
different.
On that part, but it's just that passion for politics
Right.
just comes from, I just think, policy is what changes people's lives, whether it's for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And when they shut down the military base and everything was all boarded up, and there was a time I'd ask my dad, where the hell did my friends go, and what the heck is going on? Like, why is everything all boarded up, beat up, and left like nobody cares? And he just, like I said, he's an old military guy. He goes, well, that's what happens when somebody's making decisions in a room and they don't care about you.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, then go be the guy who makes the decisions in the room and try to care about the
And
people.
care.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
amazing.
And that's what I want to do. I've just been so passionate about it, and just being involved, whether it was being involved with my high school or being involved with my church. We used to do a lot, with Trinity Life Center up in Sacramento, that my mom would, even though we waited in the food lines, she would then make us take the food to the car, and then we would go and we'd pack boxes for everybody else.
Oh.
And so no matter what, we would do the exact
gave
same
back.
thing. Yep.
Serve
My mom was saying, well, she would always also say too, like, there's no food lines in Tonga. They throw your ass in the ocean until you go find it. And all these different things. She was like, this is the most beautiful place in the world. It's the richest place in the world that just hands out food on
that
corners.
vision, huh?
Wow.
That vision. Her to keep that balance and years and years and not get jaded to the system and what she was a part of for so long.
Yep.
Wow.
And so, and that's where it's you get and you give. And that's where like that dedication to service. And I just want to serve these people, but I don't want to be in politics. That's not it.
It's not your intention.
It's my intention is this place is just California has gotten too hard to live for everybody. I mean, it's too expensive. We can't
Right.
keep the damn lights on and all these different things. And I'm tired of California I can't afford a home. Again,
Right.
I can't afford groceries. I can't afford insurance. I can't keep my business open. I can't do all of these different things. And that's California policies that have created that mentality of California can't, when this place used to be the dream for everybody around the world. California was, if you make it in California. I've met people in Kansas that are like, you're from California. Before,
boy,
it
we
used to
heard
be
that story.
good. But now everybody is like, what the heck's wrong with
Yeah,
California?
why are you living in California?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and that's just where that passion for policy just comes, where we could make it easier. But in 20 years, I want to be a professor at Fresno State. I want to do the radio for the Bulldogs. Like I
How
used
great
to.
would that be?
I had to leave because now I'm a candidate.
Right.
But I want to do the radio for the Bulldogs. I want to coach whichever high school my son goes to. On the football team with a bunch of my old buddies. You know, I want
How
to
great would that be?
drink beer on a Saturday,
Elena,
watch the game.
4.0, 5.0 on the team with you.
Oh yeah. Well, and I just want that type of life, but I just don't see that future happening because of how hard it's gotten here in California. And so that's what I want to do in 20 years.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's my end goal. In 20
you
years,
go.
I'll be
Your successes continue in different lanes.
Exactly. And that's what I want to do. And there's opportunities right now. Like I could go work for different companies and do different things that pay a whole lot more. I took a $100,000 loss on expected revenue by running for office.
Right.
But it means that much to me.
Yeah.
Because of, I see it taking care of my own family right now. I'm paying the mortgage and groceries and all these different things on top of my own with my own home and everything. And it's like, how can anybody
do that? Yeah. And I heard a story, sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
go
I
ahead.
heard a story about when I feel like you're the definition of grit. Obviously, we've heard how you grew up, but I heard a story about when you were actually playing for Fresno State and your scholarship status was null. And anyways, can you tell this story about how that went down?
Yeah, so there's a rule in the NCAA that if you've been a walk-on for 2 years and you're part of the team, you could actually fill a scholarship because every university has 25 scholarships a year to give out for football. But you don't count as one of those 25 because usually coaches like that to be the new freshmen or new guys on the team.
Yeah.
So 2016, I'd been on the team for about 2 years now. Spring ball goes by and I did fairly well, and I was starting on special teams in different areas. There were certain packages where I'd be the starter. I was the fullback on a lot of these things, and we get done with spring ball, and I had expected to be basically put on scholarship, kind of like some of the others, just mainly because there were others that were put on scholarship and all this. And at that same time, too, my parents needed help buying the house because the other house got red tagged. So I gave them all of the money that I had saved up on that one. Just maybe a little bit too forward projecting on that part. And so that end of spring ball happens. The other guys get put on scholarship, and I don't. And I didn't have anything left. I was down. There was a point where I had negative $10 in my bank account, and I needed to borrow $20, just $10 to pull me out, and then just to keep a space of just $10.
Yeah.
And so I borrowed that from one of my friends. I was already approaching the end of the lease. I couldn't afford food for a month, so I was taking muscle milk from Fresno State because Fresno State used to have to lock up their muscle milk at a Division I program. Wow. And I was taking muscle milk because that was all I could eat. And for about 2 weeks, I had nothing but muscle milk because everybody had kind of gone after spring ball. You just go home, or anybody who finishes their stuff. The coaches aren't there; they're all recruiting and doing different things. And so there was just a period, and just started to move out and all this. But one of my roommates had noticed that I didn't have food because I just cooked a lot.
Yeah.
And because that's how I'd save money I would cook chicken, and I'd just eat chicken every day for a week. And all these different, and he had just noticed that I didn't have, it was just muscle drinks.
Zeroed out, huh?
And he could see me, I was shriveling.
Yeah.
Just from not being able to eat solid food. And it's funny, he had noticed, and I used to buy Jack in the Box at times, the tacos. I used to get the 2 tacos
Those
for 99
cheap tacos, yep.
Tacos for 99 cents.
Yeah.
But I would use, because I had a dependency military ID and family dependents, get 10% discount on 99-cent tacos. So they were 89 cents for me. And I would get them because I would, whether it was a couple quarters or different things, if I can get 4 quarters together, I can afford that. And that extra 10 cents means that all I have to do is find 3 quarters and another dime. And a couple different things.
Right down to the pennies.
So, but he would see that, and he thought that I just really liked Jack in the Box. And after he bought me Jack in the Box for the first time I had solid food in about an almost 3-week period. But in that time, we had to move out. I actually ended up staying on a teammate's couch because I had packed up and everything, and I just didn't have it in me to quit. But I had already started talking to like different schools. I mean, I just couldn't live like that.
You still wanted to continue to play football.
I just wanted to play. I mean, I was playing.
Yeah,
Like I
right.
was on the team playing with packages where I was the starting fullback, where I was on the special teams. I was the starting punt on. I was on
return and
the
all,
punt
yeah.
team. No, I was not the punt returner. Not that fast.
Punt return.
But
Yeah.
I was. Yep. I was doing these things. So like for me, like I couldn't quit. Like I'll sleep on my teammate's couch, and they would feed me when I got there. And this was at like Parkwood Apartments.
Yeah.
And and you know, it's one of the hardest parts in my life. And I didn't tell my family about anything because they didn't need to worry about me as they were going through a lot of other stuff too. And so this huge period, I'm on my teammate's couch and all this, and I get a call from Lou Major, who was our director of football operations, and he goes, "Hey, you haven't signed up for classes yet." And I tell him, like, "Lou, I don't know how to say this yet, but I'm like staying on like a teammate's couch. I haven't eaten food. I just don't know how to tell you that I can't do this anymore and quit. Like I'm living out of my car." And Lou goes, "Did we not tell you yet?" And I was like, "What?"
What? Yeah.
And he goes, "Come to my office. I have something for you." And he slides me a piece of paper and he goes, "You've been on scholarship
Oh my God.
since the end of spring ball. We just forgot to tell you."
Oh my gosh.
And I
Melted
Like,
down.
am I
melted
happy
down
or
the
am I
start,
mad?
right?
I was like, "Lou, if only you knew how hard this last month was."
Oh my
But that's grit. That's
And
grit.
I
dude.
was just,
That's grit.
But the good thing is that
Back pay?
I got back pay. I did get back.
There was
pay.
a celebration.
So I went from $10 in my account to, at that time they just raised the scholarship too to $1,600. So I felt,
You felt rich.
I was rich very quickly, and I could tell you
You had a
this.
good meal.
I did. I went to Doghouse, and I got exactly what I wanted to eat and all this. But that was, I mean, I just couldn't like in me. I'd rather sleep on a couch or like I can suffer and eat. And the funny thing is, on my campaign now, like there are a few days where I just eat muscle milk because it's in my mind. It's like, okay, I'm back in that mentality of like fight.
That
as
means
hard as
fight.
you can.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I'll just drive all over the place, and all I have is muscle milk for a couple times throughout the day. I always try to hit about 200 grams of protein a day because that's just the athlete
Yeah,
in me.
yeah, the athlete in you. Yeah,
and,
that's good.
And to me, it's just like when I start pounding these muscle milks and different things, it gets me back to that.
Yeah.
I think back to 2016 when it was like that, and I just, it's just like it's like a mentality thing. Like it's time
That's
to work
the
hard
story.
again.
Muscle milk should have been one of my words, my 2 words. Muscle milk. What does that mean to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a long.
Whoa.
That's
Wow.
unbelievable, David.
That is crazy. I bet they felt so bad that they had forgotten to tell you.
I don't think so. Lou, I was bawling my eyes out in his office, so I thought he was pretty happy because we always see those videos online
Yeah.
of them giving scholarships to walk-on players,
Right.
and different things like that. And,
Yeah, the celebration in the locker room or some post deal, but
well, Lou was just like, "We forgot,"
oops.
and I was like,
That's a terrible forget, man. Wow.
and I don't think it was his fault either.
Well, that rippled probably through the coach's office, I bet too.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't be more happy to sign up for classes.
Yeah, I bet.
Because then that just meant that I was on scholarship and I'd earned it.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting? I mean, I talk to my kids about this a lot. Like, you don't think about we sit here in this life that we think is normal, but there's so many people that are living a very different life, and they're drinking muscle milk to survive.
or
that is
less.
free from right. I mean, that's an extreme story, but honestly, that is we are in America and we do have poverty here. It's a very interesting reminder, I guess, for people who have never been hungry. I mean,
Actually.
actually never been hungry.
But my takeaway to that is just this, though, is that if those people can hear what we're talking about today, and the people we've talked to, is about that fervor and trying to find just that little bit of ray of light and take that step toward doing something different than what they've been doing. Like you've taught your family about real estate and owning their own homes. It changes you. You know, that's resulting in what the success.
Well, it's what I've seen is that a lot of what's happening here in America is we're always trying to get rid of those hardships, and we're always trying to get rid of the struggle and get rid of these things and create this kind of like just complacency standard. Sure. But it's those hardships and the grit and everything else that's actually needed to mold.
Yep.
Right.
Failures
Right.
are I look at it as some of the best things, because once you fail at something, it's one, you get to learn, and two,
Right.
you get to get better.
Yeah.
OTAs are like it's a football term for different practices, but it's an opportunity to get better. That these OTAs, it's that type of struggle and those hardships that make things easier. But not only that, it just you realize how good life is as well, no matter how bad it gets. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff. Like I ran away from home when I was 14 years old too. And I started working in door-to-door newspaper sales and at McDonald's and all these things. Because again, I still had that. I never want to be stuck in this position with some of the issues that were happening at home. And that was hard. But it was through all those learning experiences and going through the hardships where now, something bad happens and I look at it and it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think about even earlier this year, I went through a lot with losing my father. So in the week of the election, I was originally engaged before that, and we had separated. We had some differences and kind of with the path that we saw in life. We were living together too, and this all happened in the week. We separated. I moved out. The election happened, and my dad passed away that Friday.
Wow.
Wow, that's a lot.
And it all happened within 10 days.
Oh my goodness.
And I was just, with all of that going on, I just keep on thinking. And there was a saying Coach Tedford would talk about in these different ones, like, how do you get through hell? You just got to keep on going.
Right.
Yeah.
And even though sometimes your hair falls out or you can't sleep at night and
Right.
like all these different things, it's like, as long as you can keep pushing, like, you got to keep on moving forward.
Yeah.
Even if it's an inch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even if it's an inch, you
it's
keep
an
moving
inch.
forward.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? I know in my life I've had many failures.
Oh.
What would you, when you say, man, this was my biggest failure in life, but it turned into something, a lesson? Like, what would you say that is in your life? Do you have one thing that stands out?
He's got a lot of layers. He's built quite the story of success.
I'm telling you, this is amazing. Yeah. But sometimes there's one thing that stands out,
and it's like the things that I think about, like, for me personally, I feel like there's a lot of divine intervention because I always look at myself as like, I shouldn't be here today. From where
you all started.
From where it all started.
Yeah.
In this part. And for me, as a personal because I look at these failures as the biggest
Opportunities, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
see, that's
Yep.
that's the
That's what I say a lot of
when
times.
you struggle for
learn
that
from
answer,
those.
that's the big plus.
Yeah.
Because to be honest with you, you don't stumble over the failure. You see,
And that's the thing that I look at. When I lost housing and all this other area, I was at zero,
Your
nothing,
hardest.
and all that. And yet, I just needed to work harder. And even though I couldn't quit, I still saw it as different opportunities. I had reached out to like the San Francisco City College coach to see if I'd go play football there and maybe try to get out from that one. Or I'd go and just transfer down to Sac State and just play football and live at home. And these different things. So I never saw that as like, okay, I failed to get a scholarship.
Yeah.
It was more of, I can no longer afford to just be here.
Right.
Right, yeah.
But
when you're in the moment, it looks different too. I think sometimes.
and that's the thing. It's like I look at it, and there are certain areas that I do wish, at least in football, that I had done some more things, whether I had worked a little bit harder on some of the on-field stuff. And that's where just having that mentality of focus I should have been at, where it could be better in the details. But when I look at failures, I mean, I've just been in a position that every single one where it was hardship.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably a great
better word.
replacement word. I mean, if you
Yeah.
could get people to understand it's just a hardship and not a failure.
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
love that.
that's a really great reference because that is, I can tell you my years the same thing. There's many times I roll in the middle of the night and stressed to the hilt and thinking, where am I? And
do I go from
where
here?
I go from here. And, next day happens. And you know what? We've been blessed. I mean, our lives, and it's a choice. And that's part that sounds like you've done an amazing job and continue to do daily. Your roles as a person on this planet is really important.
Well, and that's where I look at my life has been surrounded, and there's so many people who have wrapped their arms around me. Growing up, my mother put us in like the church version, a little bit more church version of Boy Scouts, Royal Rangers.
Oh, yeah.
So I was a Royal Ranger, and
Sounds like a cartoon.
yeah, and but there were a lot of people, like the youth pastor there, that would just see how hard me and my brothers would work for the church, and we'd do all of this other stuff, and we'd volunteer. So they would do more for us, and then these different things that we were able to do. Getting the opportunity to go play football at Fresno State and earning a scholarship. And I remember when I got that scholarship, I told Lou, I was like, I want to go on a gratitude campaign because I want to tell everybody that this isn't just a tax write-off. Like you are changing like somebody's life. Like not just mine, like you are saving my family because somebody donated to Fresno State. I'm in the position today that even though we lost my father, I can take care of them now. That opportunity wouldn't have been there if somebody didn't
Take those
give
steps.
to Fresno State or
I love that.
out of there. So it's not just a tax write-off. It is changing somebody's life. And a lot of the other guys that either kind of worked through that way, they're going through the same thing, whether they have a single mother or they grew up in low-income housing or they were in these communities. And now to be in this same position after graduating from Fresno State, like Supervisor Nathan Magsig decided to hire me because he wanted to take a chance on me.
Another great person who started young in business and city mayor of Clovis and
26 years old, he was the mayor of Clovis. He reminds me every time.
When I first
he was
met
younger
him.
than me.
Yeah.
and a shining example of what that fervor looks like at a young age. And so I think he sees a lot.
Well, and that's he took the chance on me when there were a lot of other politically, like they have a better resume than I did. I just got done with playing football. I may be finishing my master's, but I'm not. There was no. I mean, and then my resume. I've been working since I was 14 years old. So I had the real estate business. I worked at McDonald's. I worked at Dirtbusters Car Wash. I worked door-to-door newspaper sales. I did some pool stuff and all
That's
these.
pretty polished to me.
And
Grit.
and but they wrapped their arms around me, and now I'm in this position at 28 years old, running for state assembly. Jim Patterson has termed out, and he's endorsed me to replace him with some of the work that I've been able to do and the work on policy that I've worked on with a couple other individuals and these different things. Like those individuals helped me get here, and I recognize them because I would not be here without others wrapping their arms around me and just saying, keep on working. And that I carry a lot.
Right.
And there's a big weight on that part, but I also know that those same individuals, I want them to hold a high standard because you can rise to the standard,
Right.
or else you fall behind. And if there's an area and opportunity where I could just get better and I could rise to that, then I'll work my ass off for those same individuals.
Yeah. And I think, personally, I know I have a friend who helped me one time get a big job that I really wanted. And I felt so much pressure to do him well. Like, I'm not going to let him down because he put his neck on the line for me. And so I think when somebody helps you up, when they help you and they put their confidence in you, there's a level of obligation there if you are.
Well, you need to find that obligation too, right?
Because obviously, someone saw something in you. So someone saw something in me, and I'm like, okay, I owe it not just to myself, but to that person. So, it sounds like you have that in you too, to not let people down. And it's
Well, I
awesome.
owe it to my mom.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't do all of that and sacrifice as much as she did for me to, like I said, I'm her American dream.
Yeah.
So if I stop, then her American dream stops, and I can't allow that to
Can't
happen.
do that to her.
So I have to ask, is there going to be a big party in the island someday soon? Take them on there?
Hopefully, I'm planning
Find a
on
way to there.
as long as I can get her. My mom had some medical issues last year too. It's like she lost a kidney,
Oh, wow.
and a couple of these different things, and so we've been dealing with that. And as long as I can get her,
Healthy and
because if I look, I got this legal citizenship for 10 years, and we're working on these other things. I keep telling her, I was like, I need you to be here for a lot longer.
yeah.
Than this. The expiration date on this card will expire before you do, so you keep your ass here. I'm not working for no reason.
Exactly. Well, that's a blessing.
My mom was beat up there for a little bit, and so now she's getting better.
Good.
Good.
So yeah, she's getting better, and so we're working through. And like I said, with everything else that happened this year, she and my brothers are getting a little bit more lively with
Good.
some of those things. And so as long as they're in a good position, and I've got some special things coming for her.
Good.
Good. So we talked before the show started about your name and how everybody says it wrong. And so say your name for us again. First and last, and then we want to talk about your middle name too.
So David Tangipa.
Tangipa. Did I say it right? Tangipa. Okay. And so now that I have that right, now I have to learn your middle name,
Okay.
which is
It's 19 letters long.
19 letters.
It's 19 letters, yeah. 19 letters. I have it on my ID. I can show you.
oh my goodness.
It's Jarius Tokai Utu Lele.
Oh my goodness.
Jarius Tokai Utu Lele.
I'm going to work on that the next time I see you. I'm going to try to say that.
DJT. Like I said, those are my initials, just like some other politician.
Some other politician. Well, yeah.
We'll leave it at that. Okay, so I know you're a humble guy, but before we wrap up, what would you say your biggest success is?
Well, personally, this is something like getting my mother's legal residency is like that was
Pinnacle.
That was more to me than anything to get my mom, because there was so much, like, just growing up too. My mom would always have this fear that she would be deported and she'd never be able to come and take care of us. As I looked into it, my mom would have never been deported. She's on a special visa as well, being part of the noble family. So they never would have deported her.
Good.
But she still had that fear.
Yeah.
Kept a reality, though. I think that kept that reality at forefront. It sounds like your whole life and her life, in the sense of how it kept everybody pushing that same direction.
And so, but I look at it from like, okay, now I've been able to do that. Now,
What's
Now what?
next?
now here's all the fun stuff that my mom has been waiting for. So I look at that as like one of the main things. So that's been a goal life of mine, was making sure that, there, again, with the issues like with my dad, I was going to take care of my mom.
Right.
And I was going to, for everything that she did when we were younger, I'm going to be the one.
And you're the oldest boy.
No, I'm the middle.
Oh, you're the middle.
I'm the middle child. Yep. So me and my older brother, though, we're only a year apart.
Oh, okay.
So he's barely 12 months older than me. Almost Irish twins.
Irish twins,
Almost
Yep,
there.
yep.
But only by about 2
Island
weeks.
Irish.
But yep, my brother, and then I have two younger ones too. So I'm the middle, and I have my older sister.
Okay.
And so my older sister is adopted from the other side of the family.
Okay.
And I consider them my family as well.
Yeah, for sure.
They've taken care of me, and they've done a lot of special stuff. So.
Amazing.
But one of the other big accomplishments that I think, especially with what I want to work on here in California, is last year with Jake, making sure he gets a shout out too. We were able
Our
to
amazing producer.
help Senator Shannon Grove, and she passed a bill that made child sex trafficking a felony in California because it wasn't already. And
Which is crazy.
which is insane. And that is personal to me because I have friends and family that were trafficked when they were younger and in high school by other individuals that I know.
Goodness.
And I grew up, that area that I grew up right off of Watt Avenue was one of the most trafficked areas in California for underage trafficking. And so we were able to, because the legislature at first killed the bill. They did not want to make child sex trafficking a felony.
What was the mindset, whatever that be?
Yeah.
It's this big mentality on, to them, any type of incarceration is racist or evil or all of this other stuff. When, for us, we just wanted to put pedophiles in prison.
Right.
We
Period.
just wanted to
Bottom
make
line.
it the same as arson, robbery, and burglary.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't even held to the same level as that. And yet
It's so much worse.
and it's so much worse. I mean, that's not a 3 strikes you're out. That's a 1 strike
That's a
you're out.
one strike
Right,
you're out.
exactly.
Absolutely.
And yet these individuals just had, they weaponized compassion in these different areas. And they said, well, it disproportionately hurts black and brown people and puts them in prison. And well, I spun that back around and I said, well, it disproportionately saves black and brown victims. Who are you protecting?
Right.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's
Good
just
point.
the way it is. I
Value.
mean, there are
Yeah.
more black and brown victims that are suffering than those who are put in prison. And yet they still got up and walked out. And we created the public pressure campaign. There are multiple videos out there that highlight and different one, and collectively over 4 million people had seen it. 90,000 people wrote to the governor's office, and they forced it to the floor. And by forcing it to the floor, it passed unanimously. So now we're able to protect kids.
Wonderful.
And that to me is, that's a big motivation on
huge.
why I'm running, because if people think child sex trafficking is arguable today, then we need new leadership and new management. And I want to be a part of that just
Yeah.
brings people back. But that's what I look at is like, that is changing the lives of people that I went to high school with. And I remember when I worked at McDonald's, and I'll never forget it. And I could see it every day. There was somebody that was underage, and she would come in all the time, right about 6 o'clock. And all she wanted was the 3 cookies for $1. And all she wanted was the cookies would be hot and these different things. And she barely has any clothes on, and it's cold outside. And I would make sure, just because I knew, and, I grew up with them. And I'd make sure that the cookies were hot if I was the evening shift. And there was a time she came in and she ordered and all this, and the cookies weren't ready yet. But somebody else came in and they picked her up, and I'll never forget, it was like an older 1980s, 1990s blue Chevy, and then she disappeared forever. And so I never got to see them again, and all this. But I also don't think like anybody looked for her either. And so
the loss.
And I just think about, like, that's the community that I grew up in. And if we're able to save at least one person
Right.
like that, and I could just replay it all the time in my head too. She just never came back. She never came back. And, I think it's like, and I would talk to her sometimes, because that's what my mom would always do. She'd find a homeless person and she'd just start talking to them.
Right.
And she'd ask to pray for them and like to do all these different things. And so anybody that was in a situation like that, I'd joke with them about like, the cookies are hot, ready to roll. We've got the new strawberry pie if you want to try that.
Yeah.
These different things. And then, for somebody to disappear, I don't know if she was killed or, if they just moved her to a different area or all these different things. But if we're able to just do those things, that to me is, could be the most impactful, to do something for somebody else.
You're changing someone's life 100%.
So, and that's what I think would be my best accomplishment so far, because we got a lot of work to do.
Wow, that's great.
Well, and I'm sitting here listening to you, and you've talked family pretty much this whole time, and it's pretty embracing to think that you actually consider everybody around you family. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think even looking at someone across the counter, and you can still look at that feeling and want to embrace in your own way at that time. Mm-hmm. And where you are today, it's like you said, that accomplishment there, save the next one. Let's pray. That helped. That's true. So congratulations on that step.
Well, and like I said, I go back, it was some of the people who've been the best family to me aren't related to me.
For sure.
And they've been the best family out there, whether it's like, Frank Delana and the Delana family.
Yeah.
The Holland family, the Helmuth family. The other groups that let me sleep on their couch.
Right.
We weren't related through blood.
Right.
Right.
But I'm here today because of them.
Right. Their compassion. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as we go into the election, is there anything that you want to leave people with about you? Is there anything else you want to get out there?
I mean, we can always get into policy. That's actually what that's a boring conversation.
Well, I think in here your policies, there's a lot of details, but I bet you just the words you've spoken today have really testified who you are as a person. That's why we asked you to be here, because truly appreciate that part.
Well, I appreciate it. But I mean, for me too, like what I love is to learn from, how you guys saw the passion on the cart side of things. And like on that business end, what really like drove you to get into that?
Into carts.
Not only into carts, but just like from the successful side of it, like some of the opportunities that you saw.
I think that for me is reverse interviews are good. I like this. Is that really anything with wheels is a passion for me, is a heart in my heart. If it's got the opportunity to be blinging, it's usually my heart. But also too, historically, when you've done yourself and you're starting to do more, so is you see something, you see just potential, and it's people and it's work or it's opportunities in business, and I've not necessarily been always great at that in the early years, but I think as maturity happens, you also learn things, and the carts were part of that. I mean, for us, it's community driven. It's very social. It's a fun product, and it brings people together. So if that's a long and short answer. So I get to blend passion of both.
See, now the funny thing is, I went to a fundraiser and the individual had purchased the cart that you donated for Fresno State, and I walked in and I was like, "Is this
Yes.
resort slide?" And he was like, "Yep, just here on display." And I was like, "All right."
The Spencer family over at Harris Construction. That was what a blessing they did. And we've got some great support within the community, and that's a big part for us is the community. So we went on to just be. This is actually why this podcast is more about not us. It's more about bringing the sphere of people that we've met and get to meet in the future. That not only we get to share our thoughts, but also get to meet and share some of these visions of people, so we learn more.
Yeah.
To be better.
And I think for us, two things that, especially since we've gotten together, that we always say is do the right thing.
Do the right thing.
And go out and make friends.
Yep.
And I think if you do those things, and work really hard too, I think success can really come. And we do all those things. I mean, if you can't have a job, in my opinion, where you can have fun and go out and make friends, like I don't even want to do it. And that's how I've lived my career. Seriously.
We actually tell our customers that first. We want you as a friend first before you're a customer. So when we have conversations and just chatting about a golf cart of all things, it really opens up a doorway of relationship. And it is amazing over the last 20 plus months what we've been able to establish in terms of friends. I mean, unbelievable circles that have changed and added to our circles of relationships. So you get even bigger blessing. You're traveling up and down all these different spheres and you're going to have some really amazing opportunities in your own right.
So are you part of I know they do like the golf cart parades here in this neighborhood.
Yeah, we're actually a big part of, well, at Tesoro here, that's a mainstay of it. We actually help head up that now for sure. And we also at Bass Lake are trying to get more involved.
Oh, yeah.
And Riverstone.
The 4th of July one is up there.
We were up there this year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We had a guy come in and buy a cart from us because he is the Grinch every year.
Oh, yeah.
And the Christmas parade at Bass Lake. And so he bought a lime green golf cart.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's dedication, man. That's dedication. But it's a lot of fun. And I think just like you, I mean, a part of what we want to do is give back.
Yeah.
And, sometimes that's with our team and kind of mentoring someone, or, we've partnered with Marjorie Mason Center and
got our own story to that.
Yeah. And so that, I think that's part of something we have in common. You truly have done that throughout your whole career, even growing up when you had nothing. Mm-hmm. So what a great example for people. And I think that's something that we want people to remember. Giving back is big.
Yep.
Well, that's where I think the happiness is a mentality.
Yeah.
And you can find your way to like what makes you happy, and getting people out of that complacency.
Yeah.
That be willing to try. Mm-hmm. Be willing to try anything.
So how did it feel though? And this is just for me. Did you both leave your jobs for
so short
to jump
brief
full
of it
into the cart world?
Crazy,
yeah.
right?
So
Are we
Tracy and I,
smart? Are we dumb? I don't know.
I actually left managing a dealership side and went to work with Tracy about 6 years ago doing the bridal business, actually, as a sales rep and helping her on the road. And we traveled 10 states and this and that, and then tripped.
You were in the bridal business too.
I was too.
I drug him in. Yeah.
Actually, to be honest with you, one of the funnest, actually a fabulous business, to be honest with you. Widgets are widgets. My wife is everything to me. And so when we get to do it together, that's the
It
best.
was fun. I took on a really big job, and it was a big territory, and so, he
got to
quit
side
his
saddle into
job
that
and
and-
came to work with me on the backside, and we worked together, and it was incredible. But it was really seasonal, so there would be times where
Summertime's off, almost like a teacher,
He-
kind of, sort of. So, and my wheel passion, that's like I told the story earlier, is about the carts. So now we got to the point where we're so busy that I couldn't do it all myself. I'm literally just like
Yeah.
this. And so we've wanted to work together. So we pulled the ripcord, and she's joined the company in the last 30 days. And
Oh, in the last 30 days.
yeah,
Yeah.
and noticeably from here to here in terms of what we've changed. First of all, her leadership as a whole, she's a big part of our life, is that too, and we call her the matriarch, and it's so true. And
But there's things that he couldn't get done. I mean, I'm launching a safety campaign, buckle up campaign, just to get people to remember that when you're driving on roads, there's rules of the road. And I, as a mom especially, like that's super important to me. I don't want anybody to get hurt. So
well, we want to teach people the right way
Yeah.
too. This is a new thing.
we think that this is such a fun industry. We want to keep it that way. And so we don't want to take the fun out of it. We just want people to stay safe. So anyways, it's just, but yeah, so now we are working together in a whole different
It
capacity.
just flipped over.
And-
But I like that mindset mainly because you just, I think that's the thing that a lot of people struggle with. Should they take,
the leap.
just jump. If you truly believe in something and do it. Because I got asked a question yesterday on somebody just saying like, well, you're younger, you're only 5 years older than me. Like, why did you, when did you know you were ready to do it?
Yeah.
And I said, well, it wasn't about me knowing I was ready. It was about me believing that I believe I could make a difference.
Right.
And that's my why.
Yeah.
And why am I running for all of these
We've asked
different
that
things?
question before. What's your why?
What's your why?
Yeah.
And I think that's where I always tell people that if they're searching for all these different things, they can ground themselves back by just going and answering, what's your why?
What's your why?
Why do you want to do this? Because that why will then direct you. And sometimes you won't get there. Like if, hopefully not. But if I don't win this race, I still know that my why is
Right.
in
I
that.
think your wins there's a lot of wins in your future.
Oh.
And however that looks, David, you set the bar. I hate to tell you that drive right there will continue to make you win, because that effort is a great mentorship to anybody you touch.
And that's where like the biggest losses or failures,
Yeah.
those only, materialize if you stop.
Correct.
You're only a failure if you stop. And that's why I don't, I think back to
don't
like
consider 'em
all the things that I could have done better on like different things. Like it's not a failure because I never stopped.
Well, it's a growth by looking back and taking that step.
Yep. And
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
and like in your guys' case with jumping in full speed and
Who would have figured? I mean, literally.
Well, you're a man of faith, and it's really interesting because I feel like the turning point for me quitting, was we had been talking about it because the juggle was so hard. I'd hired someone to help me in bridal, and
And then it's stress between us too, because when we're working together and we're both working different
different
angles,
places.
and it's not where we're built as a couple.
so we had some friends in our neighborhood ask us if we wanted to go on a cruise with them. They had won this trip, and they had a free room. And we took like 10 seconds to say yes. And so we were like, yeah. And we know them, we're friends with them, but we're not like, best friends with them. And it was we were like, what a great opportunity for us to go and get to know them better.
them
Like
more.
they're just such great people, and they're business owners as well. And
Successful in their own right.
yeah. And so while we were on this trip, we were confiding in them that I had been thinking about leaving my job. And it was such a hard decision because the money and, it was, I'm at the top
No
of my
small job.
game. And so, anyways, the wife says, when we got together, Tom had this business and I'd been in banking for all these years. And she said, I was wanting to quit, but I was so scared. And she said, eventually I just said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to jump in here. And she goes, we have never looked back.
Yeah.
It has been the best decision of our life.
Never look back, right?
And
Learn
she
from it,
said,
but never look back.
you know, Tracy, maybe we invited you on this trip because this is a pivotal point in your life, and God just put us in this spot. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's like gave me chills when we were on this trip, right? And so we spent the whole week we were on vacation talking about whether or not
Just
was
making
right
the
thing to do.
decision. Just
And, you know, we just said, finally, about a week into it, we decided, okay, let's do it. And it's scary, right? Because we're losing this big income. But it's funny because about 2 weeks into me being there, he goes, I can't even believe that I did this without you. Like, it just feels like this has been the right thing. And so, you know, you never know. Everything is a risk, but there's no rewards without great risk.
Yeah.
So here we are. And then that's enabled us to do this and to be able, I think we want to inspire people, not us,
It's
but
not about
also
us,
with
right.
people that we know and the stories that are told. Like, let's just keep going and keep inspiring people to be great.
See, and I love that too. And that's why I wanted to ask, because it's like, I look at it as, you know, if you've take a risk and you do that, but you never feel like you're alone, you're more willing to just, all right. Like like I said, I carry my mom with me.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when it came, like, I don't have any family in Fresno or
Right.
any of this other stuff. And I just came here I moved out of my house after, you know, not even really having a bedroom, having an apartment.
Right.
And I was like, do it, you know, and just having somebody that believes in you, you just find that one person, you know, that one person that it's like, hey, we
Seals it.
win, lose, or tie on this one. And if we fall off a cliff, we fall off a cliff together, but we're in it, you know, but it gives you that mentality of just like, I can do this. Like I can, because I know no matter what, the person that I default to, or, you know, where I go, whether it's my family and my faith in different areas, like what do I default to will always be there. You know, just gives you that extra strength and boost. And it's what I tell people, like when they are taking that risk, find that one person. You know, if you really need that extra, find that one person that's like, whatever you do, like do it 100%, and no matter what, I've got you.
Yep.
You know, I think that's what makes things like, to me, I know that no matter what, I could always see my mama.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And we always say, you know, when things have gotten hard, I mean, we've definitely been through some hard things in our marriage. And, you know, we just always say, hold my hand.
Yeah,
Just hold my hand. We're going to get through it together.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're right. You just have to have that one person.
That one person.
One person.
Everybody, and most people, I mean, look, I always just think about it, like sometimes my mind works in like Shark Tank interviews where it's like, okay, if I pitch this idea, what would they say to me?
Yeah, I'm a big Shark Tank
You know,
guy. So
that's what I'm saying. Like in
yeah.
yours, it's like, okay, you walk up to your wife and goes, we're going to sell golf carts.
Golf carts, yeah. Oh, trust me. The
I
first time
know.
I said I was going to sell a golf cart, then we kept selling, and then she kept walking out in the garage. Go, can I drive this one?
I'm like,
'Cause
if
they're
it's in the
going away.
garage, I can drive it, right? Like, it
Next
doesn't
thing
matter
you
what
know,
color
so-
it is. Yeah.
Well, but I think about it from that pitch thing, you know,
Yeah, how do you pitch
the
it?
average person out there is going to be like, you're ridiculous. What do you mean you're going to get in the golf cart business and all this? And then, but then it gets to it, and it's like, you know, that's how,
Here we go.
you know, sometimes the best businesses are fairly simple.
We call them accidental. This is an
It's
accidental
an
business,
accidental
and it
business.
really has turned out to be that way. But the persons are not accidental, and I
Yeah.
think that's where your point is to that, is that the person really
Yeah.
creates that. So let's pray that story continues with success,
Yeah.
just like yours. And we really appreciate you spending
Thank
the
you
time
for
with us,
coming
David.
on.
Of course.
Can't believe the things you've accomplished, and we believe you're going to be way more coming.
I always say we're not done yet.
We're not
Yeah,
done yet.
love
And you
that.
know what?
Mom's
We'll have you
American
back.
dream goes on.
That's
right. That's right.
Right. After you get elected, we'll have you back.
I'd love to be here.
And you get to write a book,
Yeah.
Okay, that's the next one.
audiobook.
Thank you again.
All right,
you.
thanks, David.
for having me.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.